Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to another Big Buck Breakdown from the Element Podcast. What's happening, all my woods people? It's October, late October in Texas, and it's weird because a lot of leaves are starting to fall and change colors, and we didn't see that till November, like mid-November probably last year, I feel like. Mm-hmm. But there are some cooler things going on in the woods right now.
Right now, actually, more like in the yards than in the woods, to be honest. So we're sitting on the job site right now, taking a little break to do a intro for this Big Buck Breakdown, and lo and behold, there is a, I would say, shooter buck.
I would shoot the mess out of that
Shooter
deer.
buck tending a doe in the neighbor's yard, and he's been doing it for 15 minutes, and has tried to mount a few times. So like it's on. Like
and she's like wanting to accept, but not kind of thing.
Yeah,
like it's not like she's like deathly afraid like some does you see.
Yeah, no kidding, man. And this is kind of the disprover or the prover of how our rut is weird here. Where like, this is what you would call lockdown stuff, right? And it's happening at the end of October, where we live. So, time to be in the woods,
dude. It's weird. Is he still over there? I can't see.
I don't see him right now. They kind of went behind the berm or something.
They got kind of spooked by a citizen of this neighborhood and took off, but I think they're still pretty close around here. But he's got like 7-inch brow tines.
Mm-hmm. And a broke G3 like at the beam. Like this deer is legit 140s probably, something like that.
What a toad.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like I should be in a stand. The weatherman missed it again. What is he doing?
Well, it's actually right on the weather forecast right now. They just had to change it this morning, so that's good.
Exactly. Yeah. I was waiting on sunny and 80 degrees today, and it's like 67 and cloudy. So
yeah, but I'm gonna be hunting this evening, is my plan. So last night I went on a little recon. And got to my hunting place very late, but I can observe kind of if I drive a little ways into the place, So I parked my vehicle, got out, and stood behind some hay bales at last light, and I could see a couple deer in the pasture. And I get my binos up, and, I can see a little bit more with binos, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a very nice buck with a good frame, high, wide, chasing does like a pronghorn out in this pasture. They are running everywhere, and I don't know why. I guess some of the does kind of like the flirtatious action too, but like they'll like, kind of mess with him or something, then take off running 30 yards. It's like they enjoy tormenting him or something. But
man.
So after that little note, tonight I'm going to go in on a ground mission. I'm going to go set up on the ground right in this field edge because, really mostly because of the wind direction. There's no trees to hang on this place with this wind direction. So I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, I'm stoked for you, dude. I'm glad you're going because I know you've been like not, like kind of a little disappointed with some of the like data you're recovering from that property, I guess you'd say, because of like you're like, oh well, now they're coming out here, which is not what I assumed, and so goes East Texas deer hunting.
They come from anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah. So it's tough, but. And I went the other day, and I'm not planning on going tonight because I have to do duties that a husband and dad have to do sometimes, and I wish I was going every day, but I've just have a lot going on right now, and fortunately and unfortunately, I have picked up a lot of work in October, and so it gives me a lot of money to just go probably spend entire November like hunting every day, hopefully. But yeah, October has not been my month, and I'm looking at this deer right here, chasing and wishing that it was. But I did get to go the other night. I think it was last Sunday. Oh, that wasn't last Sunday. It was last week in the middle of the week, and it was on an evening hunt. The wind had finally changed. We had these light and variable easts over and over and over again, and finally changed to a westerly wind. And so I went and basically pulled my stand and did a hanging hunt on a different area of the property. Well, I had seen a deer right directly where I wanted my wind to blow over this pond, right? I had seen a deer right next to the pond, and I was like, dadgummit. I saw her from the road. And I was like, I'm just going to go in there, and hopefully if I spook her, at least maybe I'll see other things later in the evening, and this is a good place to see a lot and learn something today on this property. And I did, man. I went in, but I hung the stand, got up in it, and like 45 minutes later, I see the deer, and I had hung the stand like within bow range of this deer and not spooked her.
Well done.
And so I was that was a win for me. I was
know
very
what that
excited.
means? That means you get to hang all the stands this year.
As long as it's light outside, I'll do it.
That's right.
Morning hanging hunts are hard to do.
That's what you call a drag.
Yeah. So anyway, but I did learn some stuff too, not just from that doe and that hanging hunt experience, I guess, but I learned from viewing other deer across the pasture, including the fact that there was a little buck that for 30 minutes plus did not leave a single pin oak tree, which pin oak, as we've talked about, can be anything.
I don't know. I'm still going to call that a red oak.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
But there's a lot of red oaks. It's like an
eastern red oak, I'm pretty sure, or a southern red oak, one of the two.
It's got really like the lobes are really thin. And so is the body of the leaf, or whatever you might call it, and they extend several inches out. So pretty pokey looking leaf, you know what I mean? And
it's a poke oak.
It's a poke oak, is what it is in the post oak belt. But I was sitting in a tree, just the same exact type of tree, but I was 250 yards away, and this deer just sat under that tree and fed for like 30 minutes, and so. So you're calling this right here a pin oak that we're looking at?
That's what I normally call a pin oak.
That's
like it's a willow oak.
Yeah. I just think that I called it a pin oak forever too. But like now that you've been calling it willow oak some in the last couple of years, it makes sense to me because it looks like a willow leaf.
Well, yes, but it is like an accepted local term
to be called a
pin oak. Like I looked it up. Like it's sometimes called a pin oak, which this sometimes thing really throws a kink in the stuff on oaks. And
this is like, we looked at the USDA terminology, and it's still very vague.
Hey, I'm going to put a plug right here. So our buddies at Landon and Legacy, we talk to those guys pretty often, and I don't remember if it was Matt or Adam who sent me...
Madam, wasn't it?
Madam, yeah Madam. But... I put something on our story about like identifying this weird forb-looking thing that I found in a pasture around here, and he sent me like the exact right answer. It was snake cotton, something like that is what it was called. And I was like, wow, how did you know that so fast? And he's like, dude, I'm going to blow your mind. The iNaturalist app. If you don't have it on your phone, go get it. We're not getting paid by those folks by any means, but it's like super helpful because you literally can take a picture of a plant, an animal, a fungi, or anything that you want to figure out what it is, and they will give you suggestions to what they think it is. And it's pretty dang accurate.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool.
I'll give my wife a plug here and say that she has been using that app for a few months now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So
you never told me about it.
Well, I didn't use it. I just relied on her, and so I didn't know technically what the app was. And then when I saw that conversation between you and Madam, I realized that she's cooler than I thought.
Yeah, I always knew she was that cool, Tyler.
That's good. That's good.
You did good.
Good. Thanks, man. So we have a big buck breakdown today, as we said in the beginning, and it's a monster.
It's the kind of get me fired up,
dude. It's like some bucks, and I've probably said this several times before, but there's bucks that there's 3-year-old 140-inch deer in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. There are 4-year-old 160s in the Midwest, but then there are 7-year-old 130s. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And they're just huge, heavy 8 points with monster heads.
The kind that you don't mess with.
Gray body looking, nasty, gnarly deer. And that's kind of how I feel about this deer right here. It's one of those deer that I really would rather shoot this deer scoring in the 130s or whatever it might. This deer scores bigger than 130s, but you know what I'm saying? An old deer that scores in the 130s versus a 3-year-old that scores 145 or whatever.
Yeah.
I just think that's way cooler. I think that deer is way more rare. And anyway, we've got one of those today. Our good buddy Luke Laha is the guy that put it on him. And Luke, we finally got to meet at the QDMA convention after many months of calling him Laha.
I think he gets that pretty often, so it's okay.
Yeah. So that's how you spell it. I don't know why you had to go off and say it all weird, Luke. But anyway, I think he might be an Indian thing, right? He's part of a native tribe.
I think so, yeah.
He looks like he's part of a native tribe.
I think it's the Northern Redhead tribe, I think, or something like that. But anyways, no, Luke's a good dude, man.
Yeah,
he definitely knows his Canadian geese and his horns on whitetails and all of this.
He does, man. We're cracking on him because we know he's about to listen to this thing. But really, he is a really awesome, knowledgeable dude. The reason we first connected with him is because you're reaching out to him about bow stuff, right? Archery stuff.
I think he posted something on his story about being a listener or whatever, just to kind of give us a shout. And then he's pretty knowledgeable on his archery stuff, so I was asking him a few questions and ends up just became buddies through social media, which is a really, we crack on social media a lot nowadays, and some of the bad things it does. But, man, it does connect us, and it's pretty cool. And I'm appreciative of that. Tyler's over here trying to snatch a pin oak leaf out there.
They're falling like crazy.
We're doing this podcast outside because we wanted to watch this buck that's tending this doe.
Yeah.
And so we've been getting a pretty good show while we're doing
good
this.
Good dose of fall for sure, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, anyway, well, anything else?
There actually is something else, Tyler.
Okay.
We are giving away the Exodus trail camera today, guys. It's trek season. Hey. So I want you to know that we have decided the winner, but we will tell you the winner right after the big buck breakdown.
Yeah. So you got to wait till the end, listen through the end. Make sure you listen to this podcast because Luke has some really cool things to say. And then, at the end, you will learn who the winner is. We had a lot of cool reviews, so thank y'all for that. And in the meantime, let's get to Luke and get fired up about some deer rut.
Woo, let's go.
All right, so now on the phone we have Luke Laha from Old School Outfitters. What's happening, dude?
Hey, how's it going?
It's pretty good.
We just got some snow, so everybody's kind of chomping at the bit up here, but it's all melted already. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it came last night for a little bit, and then it's supposed to be up in the 50s and 60s the rest of the week. So.
Really? So that's hotter than us.
Yeah,
right
tomorrow
now.
We'll have a higher or a lower high than you will.
Yeah, it's coming your way. So
it's here. It is currently 44 and raining, and so I would say it's here. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Me and Casey have been talking about it, but we don't really we want to be hunting because we had a 40-degree drop in temperature, but we just probably are not going to sit in the rain in temperatures in the mid-40s. So, so did you killed just a stud, man. Casey sent me a picture of this thing, and I was like, that's just a giant right there. I mean, just heavy. Was that on this front that we're talking about?
So I usually get quite a bit of daylight activity. So back at about 3 years, I bought some cell phone cameras, and that's probably the best purchase I've ever made.
Yeah.
You know, it can call it cheating, call it what you want, but it makes me a better opportunist and a better deer hunter. It keeps me out of the woods when I don't need to be there checking cameras. So since I've got those, I've really limited my traffic into the property. And I can really, every time I go to hunt now, I go to harvest a particular deer based off of their movements that I can check every day. And so it keeps me out of the property quite a bit, actually, and I think that really keeps the big deer, or most of the deer, comfortable in there. And so, yeah, I guess going back when I was planting my food plots in September, one of my food plots had like 9 scrapes on it, and which is crazy in September.
Yeah.
And they're all huge scrapes. And so I really started figuring out what was moving in there. And then I started really getting a lot of daylight pictures of the shooters I had. So, and I don't know if that's the daylight photos are because I stayed out of there or not, but I've had pretty good luck here being able to pattern some of my shooters early season. And once our corn gets cut, it kind of throws them all off there for a little bit, because a lot of our big deer, they can live out in that corn for 2 or 3 months and nobody ever sees them. So, yeah, I don't know, October 6th, 2 years ago is when I shot my big one, my 184. And that happened to be the day before opening day of big duck season. And so I told myself that, you know, if I can shoot another buck on that day, it'd be pretty cool. And so last Friday was opening day, or the day before opening day of big duck. So kind of the same time frame as I did 2 years ago. And about this time, they start kind of bumping does and checking does and pushing small bucks around when they come into the food plots. So they're starting to creep farther into daylight.
Yeah. So how did everything go down when when did you originally find that this buck was using your property, and also when, if that was a few years ago or whatever it might have been, when did you decide that this was when you were going to shoot?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, the last year I didn't shoot one. I didn't shoot a buck last year because I didn't have anything I thought was mature. And so I really didn't hunt that much. And, trail cameras showed that they weren't there, and I studied them pretty religiously to see if anything new came in. And I had a couple 3.5-year-olds last year that were non-typical. They were just throwing some weird stuff. And so those didn't show up this year, so I don't know if they showed up. They went, because, a non-typical throw on antlers can be an injury-based most of the time.
Right.
A lot of times it's a 1-year thing. So, and so this guy, I look back at pictures from last year and the year before, and I couldn't find anything that had a distinctive. The only thing he had that was characteristic-wise was his left G2 was split, had a big split on it. So that was a pretty distinctive characteristic that I couldn't find anything from last year or the previous year. But he started showing up, being able to identify him as a particular deer in about June, July in velvet. And then I kept tabs on him most of the season. And then about right when he went, hard-horned, I kind of put him on the hit list. He made it up there and with a couple other bucks. But the more I studied my other bucks, I realized that this guy was probably the more dominant, and I would assume to be the older one of the few I had. So he kind of went up to the top of the hit list. The other bucks I had on that hit list probably would have scored more, but I think this guy was older, so
That's cool.
he made it to the top, and I guess I hunted for that particular deer about 2 weeks ago. He was coming by one of my cameras right at shooting light, right at dark, and with 2 other small bucks, and the 2 small bucks showed up right on cue, but he didn't. And so I didn't harvest him that night. And then I chased another buck I had one other morning, and I saw him, but he skirted the food plot and he didn't come in. And then it would have been Thursday night, I got a picture of this deer, this G2 buck, at 6:15 p.m., which is plenty of daylight. And so I said that, I got a lot of work to do here at the lodge, so I had to convince a lot of people to let me go deer hunt when I needed to be working.
Yeah.
And so that's the hardest part, is everybody's kind of looking at me weird. I was like, just let me go deer hunt so I don't have to deer hunt the rest of November, December.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm about the biggest fair weather deer hunter you can find. I'd feel really good in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it gets cold, last place you'll find me is sitting up in a tree, sitting in a 40-mile-an-hour wind and snow and sleet.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't about that. but yeah, he came in at 6:15 on Thursday night, and then Friday he came in at about 6:10, right on cue with a bunch of does and small bucks in the food plot, and he sent and checked most of the does and ran off all the other bucks and had him there in front of me for about 10-15 minutes before he gave me a quartering away 18-yard shot and made a really good shot on him, and he went about 150 yards and piled up.
You watched him drop?
I didn't see him drop. He ran so my wife shot a doe in that food plot last year and with her bow, and he ran the exact same trail she did, and so I had a pretty good idea. He died about 20 yards where she did, so it was nice I could follow the blood trail real easy, and it led me right to where I was thinking he was going. So
nice, man. That's
it worked
awesome.
out pretty good.
That's awesome, dude. Congrats on that. For the listener, we've been in touch and kind of had some correspondence with you for a long time now. Mm-hmm. I think KC originally was inquiring. You're a really knowledgeable guy, and he was inquiring about some arrow stuff, I think, for a while when he was getting ready to do his whole change and setup this year. And then we had the pleasure of finally getting to meet you face to face at the QDMA National Convention this summer, and became pretty good friends over the event, man. Yeah. And man, I'm super proud of you. Like you had told me before, you're a fair weather deer hunter, so sometimes that can limit your season, man. And you've killed some toads, man. And you seem to be really involved with the whole QDM side of things. So how does this? Is this farm small? I mean, you talked about pressure and staying off of it with cell cameras and stuff like that, but you also talked about corn, I'm guessing, as like agricultural corn, and then also a food plot. How does this whole thing set up?
So it's about out in my neck of the woods, central Kansas. Your average block of woods is based around a creek or some type of water source, and it's about a 300-acre farm. And then surrounding it's a bunch of pastures and either corn circles or bean circles or dry wheat. And so we have a lot of ag production in Kansas, which is why we have big deer. We have quality food, and good soil for the most part. And so this farm is about an average kind of tract of land out in my neck of the woods, about 200 to 300 acres. Nothing huge, but if you manage something like that, you can manage any size of acreage to hold deer. And I do all of my work on about, I would say, 50 to 75 acres. So I don't step foot outside of that 50 to 75 acres until I shed hunt. And I think that makes a big difference on pressure. Mm-hmm. So I have 3 food plots all in a row. I built my food plots in certain areas to where deer, like during the rut, can't see the other food plot from one food plot. So they have to go from one to the next, and from the next to see another, and go into all 3 of them. And it's kind of cool. Last year I rattled in a little buck, and he ran right into my first food plot. He didn't see anything. He ran to my next one, stopped and looked around, and I saw him disappear over to my third one. And he came back about 3 minutes later into the second one, and then back into mine looking. So having barriers in between the food plots makes they can't just walk into one and see all of it.
Right. That's cool.
And so I have 5 food plots all in this 75 acres. They're all about an acre apiece, and they're all secluded. And so I try that spot that I shot my buck out of is literally the only spot I've shot deer on that property, even though I have a couple other stand sites. It's just always my honey hole. Mm-hmm. and it always works out. It's very secluded in the center of the property, and I can sneak in there. And yeah, I do all my work on that little chunk there. So when they see a vehicle drive through there or a four-wheeler, it's not something new. The landowner likes to take the dog down there and run around, so they always stay on that 50 acres. And so all of the CRP and trees and creek bottom around that 50 acres is pretty much sanctuary, because we don't walk it or step foot in it really until we shed hunt.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference on keeping deer feeling comfortable on that property.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, that's cool. So did you do anything, you said that honey hole stand's kind of like right in the middle. Have you done any habitat manipulation to help with access to that place?
Not really. There's a 2-track that goes all the way down to it, and that's I love that food plot, and I love hunting in that food plot, but access is the hardest thing to get into, and so I almost limit myself to only hunting there in the evenings, so I can get in there, because during the mornings, they're usually in the food plot before light.
Yeah.
And so I usually try to get in there early, around 1 or 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then set it out all night. But like I said, I only touch those. I only go in there if I'm about 90 to 95% confident I'm going to kill something.
Yeah, looking to
that
kill.
makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And we're blessed, and Greg Harper might not agree with this, but in the Land of Legacy, my guys might not either, but we're blessed with a few cedar trees.
Yeah.
Eastern red cedars, and that's what I love to put tree stands in. They just cover up your movement when it's windy, and they cover up a lot of your scent, and there's just a lot of opportunities to hide in.
Yeah.
And so that's what this tree stand was in. We had a double ladder stand in a big cedar tree.
That's
nice,
cool.
man. Good
And
and comfortable.
I can't hunt that. I can't hunt that without a north wind. So
Right.
we've been limited to a few days with north winds. I just made it happen on one of them.
Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I would have to agree with you on the cedar tree thing, man. I have one of my favorite things to do in the past has been to sit, like a 8-foot tripod in the middle of one of them cedar trees. And it's hard to do. It's hard to get it in there, But man, it's just bulletproof. I feel like you could do jumping jacks in some of those things and not be seen, and you don't. And obviously, you're not very high off the ground. And in 2013, because of a cedar tree, I was able to stalk up on a buck in a high wind and shoot him, a big old buck. And so they're nice they have a few good applications,
Yeah, very few.
yeah. So
the best part is the leaves don't fall off when it gets cold.
Exactly. Yeah. For
They're
sure.
a good wind block if they need to be.
Yeah. Shelter belts, man.
Yep. So, you're kind of in I don't know, interesting area of the country, right, where crops are everything when it comes to whitetail, it seems. Was there any pressure to get this done before there are any changes in the way the crops work in your area? I
was hoping to get it done before the corn came out.
Yeah.
On one of my other deer, but he just wasn't showing up during daylight. And once the corn turned, right by where this property is a big corn circle, which is a big food source. And about when the corn turned, they stayed in that corn and they didn't leave. We got some big rains up here, and so there was standing water all over in those cornfields. Food, corn cover. I mean, they had no reason to leave.
Yeah.
And so once that corn got cut, and the beans, and they kind of started using them just at dawn and dusk, and went back to the tree lines and the CRP for cover. And that's when we really started getting daylight photos of them on their feet.
Yeah.
In those transition areas.
Oh, that's cool. So, I know on your big deer a few years ago, you had some video footage. Did you get anything with this deer? Yeah,
I had an intern with me.
Oh, cool.
Alex. He's helping me out this year with my pheasant guide service, and so we had all the big cameras up. You know how it goes. You set up all the big cameras up, and then you got 15, 20 deer in front of you, and you film it with a cell phone camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told him we had 2 DSLRs set up. We had everything ready to rock and roll, and then I barely got stood up. I was shaking the tree so bad. I don't know how he could have got up with me, but I get buck fever so bad it ain't even funny.
Dude, I watched your story. It was outrageous, dude.
The does came in right before the buck did, and I knew they were going to. And every time I thought about that buck, the limbs would start shaking in the whole tree. It was bad.
That's awesome, dude.
We're
And
going to
then
start calling you Rattling Red, man. Just your knees just rattling around.
The biggest, here's the funny part. The biggest thing that helped me calm down was I dropped my release.
Oh, no.
'Cause I have a Carter forefinger, and I pulled my bow off of the hook to set it in my lap, and it hit the thumb trigger on my binoculars, and it landed right at my feet on my platform, luckily. But it made a bunch of noise, and all the deer stared at me. And I thought it was game over. And then they went back to chowing down, and so I slowly bent down and picked it up. And after that moment, I calmed down a little bit. But
It's good.
yeah, it was. Oh, I look like I got Parkinson's. It's bad.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. That's a cool story, man, and what an awesome buck. Like you were talking about how you had deer that probably would score higher, but man, like my dad and I have hunted together a lot and on several leases and different permissions and stuff, and man, I tend to. He likes to shoot, you know what I mean? So like in November, he's probably going to pull the trigger on a deer. And then I'm the kind of guy that like, well, I will hunt the cold days, and I don't enjoy it that much, but I do feel good about my chances. And I've shot a lot of deer in December, and I'll end up shooting these old bucks that are big 8s or whatever, and they're just heavy, and that's just like my favorite deer to shoot. And every year my dad's like, man, I just wish I had the patience like you do, because I'm shooting these deer over here that are scoring like 150, 160, but your 140 looks bigger than that, or whatever. So anyway, I really appreciate that deer that you shot, man. I think it's awesome deer. So send us some pics and we'll put them on the story, man.
Will do.
Yeah. So if you have, when we introduced you, it was Old School Outfitters. What do you outfit there?
So we do primarily pheasant hunts, upland bird, pheasant, quail, and we can get a hold of some chucker, but mostly pheasant hunts. For now, we might tap into deer later.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of ground in Kansas is so tough to get on and get access to. I mean, any big buck state. It's high dollar out here and anywhere for that matter. Yeah. And deer hunting, it's tough. It's hard to guarantee a lot. Pheasant hunts, I can guarantee a good time.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is the expectations are so high sometimes when people go on those outfitted deer hunts that you can't ever meet their expectations, or hardly ever.
Yeah. So yeah, it's tough, but it's a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of camaraderie and good people and good places, and pheasant hunts look a lot of fun. It's if you get a good group of guys and you get to have all the dogs running at the same time, and you aren't limited to one dog or a couple dogs with waterfowl, and it's a lot of fun when you get the right people in the right place. Sure, there to have a good time, and so that's what I like to capture is the camaraderie aspect of things. Yeah.
Real quick, tell us about your lodge, man. I think it's a pretty interesting story.
So, when we decided I was teaching for the last 6 years, and one of my life goals was to be my own boss before I was 30. And, some people think I'm crazy, and that's okay, but I just want to be my own boss. So
I think you're crazy, but not because of that.
we agree with you on that part.
Definitely crazy.
It's a lot of pressure, but it's a lot less stressful, but more stressful at the same time. It's one of those things I really wanted to do, was own my own business full time, and we're in the perfect location, and we know a lot of people that really enjoy pheasant hunting, so we kind of looked at where we could do it and where we're at. I farm full time in the summer, so I have access to a lot of farm ground and a lot of CRP corners and waterways and pastures and a lot of good pheasant hunting cover, and we're looking for a place to lodge our clients. I've been running for the last couple of years, a group here, a group there, and I'd have to use a hotel, and that defeats the camaraderie aspect of things,
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so we looked at building a lodge and maybe buying a house and remodeling into a lodge, and we live in a little city of about 150 people here, and there's an elementary school that is kind of vacant. It's kept up and whatnot, but it just wasn't being used, and so we got talking to the city council, and they were more than happy to sell it to us, and as long as it was being used. And so we got got access to it, and it's right off, a couple busy roads here, and we're going to open up a coffee shop and a cafe, and then it'll be a full bed and breakfast outside of hunting season.
Oh, cool,
And
man.
so it's a big project. It had 5 classrooms in it. It's not just like a little white schoolhouse. It's a big full-size elementary school.
Yeah.
And so we're splitting all the rooms up into 4 of the 5 rooms are splitting up into rooms. So it'll be 9 rooms, and 8 of them will have double queens. And so we've been building walls and fixing stuff and replumbing everything and re-electrical everything and getting the coffee shop done. It's just project after project after project with a deadline of opening weekend pheasant season. So
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
That deadline's coming up real quick.
Oh, it is, man, and that's a good time of year to be out in the woods. So
Yep.
you're definitely going to want to have that done.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool, man. I'm excited for you. And if the listener is looking for a bird hunt and some good camaraderie, man, check them out. We'll put the link here in the show notes. So anyway, Luke, congratulations on that monster buck, man. And
I appreciate it.
thanks for hopping on the phone with us. So this story shows us that sometimes it's a good thing to take off a day of work and go hunting. You know what I mean?
I know it, man. And today's probably that day for us. But
I'm thinking that too.
I don't know. Look at all
What
these
the
leaves
heck?
falling right now.
Oh, my
leaves in my
gosh.
face. How
Dude,
opportune.
That was cool.
That was cool. Well, I don't think I'm going to get to take off today, but I am going to hit the woods later. And you and I are, in fact, headed to the great state of Luke Laha ourselves next week, dude. Talk about
dude.
taking off from some work.
Dude, I know.
We're actually like taking a straight up rutcation pretty much.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped.
I don't really have any work to do right now, so it's more like I'm just gonna claim unemployment and go for it.
Yeah,
I think.
it's all right, man. Well, hopefully our conversation with Luke can rub some good juju off, and we'll have some similar success, man, because that's an awesome story, and he's a good dude, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he can get that done and in time to do all his other stuff, with his outfit and stuff and all that. But
I think that's kind of a point to be made too, is that like Luke, he talked about how it was the night that he needed to take off, and so like you got to be smart about it. You can't just randomly go into the woods and miss your kids' soccer games and helping your girlfriend or wife with dinner or whatever it might be. Like you need to have a good reason to go, and in that way, at least this time of year when, October, when the rut maybe hasn't been cranking like it will in the next week or two, to be like, yeah, well, the wind sets up really well. You know what? Pressure is going to be high, or there's a front moving in, and we're seeing increased deer movement along the roadsides and stuff. I think I need to go this afternoon or whatever. So it's a good point to be made that, there are certain days that you might want to take away from work based off of what some of these guys like Mark Drury and Jeff Sturgis have told us in the last few weeks.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think so too. But something that we're going to do while we are up there is we are going to put out some trail cameras. In fact, we might
can
put
find
out,
any.
Yeah, we'll find any to put out. Goodness gracious, we are kind of
We got 'em
running
out.
low. We got them out on other stuff here in Texas, but we actually are going to give away one of the trail cameras that we use
Right now?
right now. Mike Peeker. Okay, so guys, we want to let y'all know that review number 39.
39
is the
feeling fine.
winner. Feeling fine at 39. That's how old you are, right?
Yeah,
No, just kidding.
Come on.
Number
19,
39 was left on October 16th and left by Smirky.
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 You think he's smirking because he shoots big deer?
Probably just grinning because he knew he going to win. He knew. he knew.
We're bringing him the news that he knew.
Old Smirky. Smirky says, great show. 5 stars. Very informative, entertaining, and down-to-earth listening.
Dang.
Thanks, Smirky.
Thanks, Smirky.
I very much appreciate being described in that way.
Yeah.
So that sounds good to me, man. Smirky, get in contact with this dude. Let us know. You probably got about, 2 weeks.
I'm thinking like a week most, because I'm going to put this thing out in Kansas if he doesn't contact us.
That's true. You may get a hold of us by next Tuesday. So, Smirky, get a hold of us. Send us a message on Insta or from our website, which is theelementwild.com.
Or at Facebook.
Or at Facebook, yeah. And you can get a hold of us through any of those places. And, yeah, we'll get that out to you, man. Thanks, everybody, for leaving all the great reviews. We have read them all, and they are all encouraging, and we very much appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, here's the deal. If you have not left a review and you're like, oh, man, I just missed out on the last giveaway of the year, we got a little something for you, okay? Yes, this was our last giveaway of the year, but our next giveaway, which is undetermined as to when that will be, will start from this review forward. Right. Then we talk about that?
Well, unless it's like a huge package deal, then we might just include everybody.
Ooh,
because it
that's
might
true.
be it's so good that we want to give everybody a shot.
That's true.
But likely, you're right.
The point is, don't stop leaving reviews in anticipation of the next giveaway.
Right.
Because we're going to start from here and go forward.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it's always a good time to leave the Element Podcast a 5-star review.
Yeah, good call, man. I definitely agree with you there. And I think my sister even left one.
Way to go, girl.
I know.
Man.
She doesn't even hunt.
I know
She doesn't even eat meat.
I mean, she likes us.
So, anyway, yeah, like KC said, thank y'all for all the great reviews, man. They were heartfelt and definitely it's encouraging for us going forward here into the season, especially considering the fact that we just have been workaholics and haven't been able to get out in the woods a whole lot. And other than a doe and an elk, Team Element, really just T. Jones has no success this year at all. Not even seeing deer, you know. But
Yeah.
I actually do have some pretty good ones on camera. My property is small and doesn't really set up for them to be there very often.
It's going to be a killer rut property, man.
I think so, too.
It's just not a deer holding property at the moment.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you'll be good. So let me ask you a quick question on the way out. Have I passed any deer that you would have shot?
No.
Okay, good. It's good. I mean,
Especially on your property. But
over on your property too.
on my property, I don't know. I feel like that 8 that I've got on camera that came with the 10. You remember him? I feel like he's a touch better than Swope. I don't know that for sure.
I think he is, yeah.
But
for
he's
sure.
real heavy and he's got really good 3s and 2s. That's like my bottom line, I feel like. So that's kind of why I'm saying that. And then your what's he, short 3-buck? What do you call him?
Cautious?
Cautious.
The 2-year-old? Yeah.
He's just so young that I don't know that my landowner would really want me to.
Dude.
He's not really worried about it, but just, he knows a little bit about that kind of thing.
And we
so.
want to shoot mature bucks too. You
Yeah.
know, that's kind of the reason I didn't shoot either of those deer myself. You know, they're respectable bucks. But I felt kind of guilty in the past about passing deer on public that I know you would have shot, but just because I was the shooter and I kind of have a place I want to be. But I'm glad that that's not the case on any of these deer. And this year on public in Texas, I have a feeling I'm going to be feeling pretty itchy. So
Dude.
a good 3-year-old gives me a chance. I just might have to do it.
I'm just missing it right now because we hadn't been out there since early October.
Haven't really had the weather.
That's
and
it.
It's just a
It's
lot
a
of
long
the
haul to some of those
stuff
places.
is far away, and really our better stuff's far away right now. So I don't know. We haven't made it out there a bunch, and quite honestly, having these permission things just kind of makes you a little bit lazy every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I am missing that, man, like you said. And I think too, like we've been to public a few times, and our last experience was kind of a bitter experience with like having a guy steal a card out of a trail camera and turn it off and stuff like that. And then,
Heat and mosquitoes.
yeah,
and
mosquitoes were just going cray. So
swirly winds.
yeah, but anyways, well, I'm sure we will get out to public again pretty soon because I'm feeling it, man. It's
It'll be
going
within
down.
the next 7 days. We're going to be on public. I
Oh
imagine.
yeah, when we hit out of state, we're gonna be on public for show. So I'm ready, man.
Yeah, I know.
Let's
Me
get it
too.
done.
I'm ready too. So, congrats to Smirky.
Smirky.
Can't remember if it's Smiley or Smirky. Probably
He's gonna
both.
be pretty smiley after this.
That's right.
He just got a good prize.
That's right.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, congrats on that, man. And remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.